Welcome back to Scrappy New Year, and I realized before I can get sewing any scraps, we kind of got to talk about my scrap situation, what I consider a scrap, and where I'll be starting from. So we're gonna get real here. I'm gonna take it down to the ground floor of my brick room where all the chaos is hidden right now, because right now we're like up at the top level penthouse where everything's all nice and pretty and beautiful and no chaos, and get down and dirty and talk scraps. So I'll meet you down there. Here we are. Welcome to the scary, scrappy side of my sewing room. So usually you see up top, because as you can see, my Bold Blocks quilt is here behind me. Usually you just see the top half of that, maybe the very bottom, but here is everything that's hiding besides that. So one of the questions I got when I posted my first Scrappy New Year video last week was, what do I consider a scrap? And so what I consider a scrap is anything that's like a weird shape that is cut off of something or left over from something, or just a weird piece of fabric. So if I bought it, like if I bought a third of a yard or a half of a yard or quarter yard, I wouldn't consider that a scrap until I've cut something off of it, so then it's not a true piece of yardage. And so unless it's a kit where it comes as like a fat eighth or some like 5x5 square. So if it came that way, I don't consider that a scrap yet until I have cut off what I need and then moved forward to make whatever project I have. So like this here, this is a chunk that was left over from a quilt that I made for my brother-in-law. And so it's like a weird 3-inch, maybe 4-inch strip, not even full width of fabric. As you can see, there's no selvage on that side, but there is on this one. These are all just things I'm picking up off the floor behind me. This was from the Unity quilt. This was a third of a yard. No, this was a quarter of a yard, but as you can see again, selvage, no selvage. So those I consider scraps. And then my grunge scraps are kind of their own beast. Like these are pieces that were cut off of, I think these, I've used this color so much. So this one came from the Unity quilt. It was my sashing or my block borders. So like they're kind of weird pieces. So nothing's a true yardage. Actually, this one is edge to edge, but this is still kind of a scrap because it's off of something that I cut down from something bigger. So I've kind of just got scraps and stuff piled everywhere, like Kona scraps. If it's cut off from a backing where it's like selvage along the bottom and like 54 inches wide from my like 3-yard quilts, but still like 20 some odd inches tall, I do consider that a scrap because it came off of something. It's not a normal cut of fabric, and so I have no specific use for it to like put on comic book boards, which is how I keep my yardage. Let me see if I have any of those nearby. Let me grab that. So when I have yardage pieces, I put them on comic book boards. This one, don't judge me. This one is not ironed because I picked it up off the floor today, and so it's all wrinkly, but because it is yardage, I put it on here. This was one that I used for the Unity quilt as well, but I've got lots of it. And then these are other ones that I've had in my stash that will either become one of the 3 yards for a 3-yard quilt or the backing. This one I've got this was from last year's annual clearance sale. So that shows you how much, that shows you why I am doing no buy January again. So I can kind of whittle my way through these ones. This is a chunk left over from Unity quilt. So what I'm doing right now is I am taking my scraps that I'm finding as I clean this room and putting them in different piles, so then I know what I have to work with when I kind of explore the 3-yard quilts and see how I can make those scrappy. And then I also have another book I want to show you that I'm going to dive into. So let me go grab that real quick. So this book is one that one of my coworkers told me about. Becky, the same one that found me Onyx, that cat table runner, and it's also the same one that suggested the gold thread for that same table runner. It is the Scrappiness is Happiness. She is a big Lori Holt fan, and we've both been kind of talking about kind of exploring scrappy quilts this year. So She bought that book, said it was fantastic, and so I found it on, I want to say I bought it from Green Fairy Quilts because they always have some screaming good deals. I think they had a clearance sale or something at one point, but they had this on there and I knew I needed to get it just so I can explore my scrappiness. And so I've had this, so now it's gonna kind of be one of my books. It's a good thick book, y'all. And so I'm gonna explore this a little bit. I think it's gonna help kind of learn a little bit more about scrappiness. And then I also have this quilt that I think is gonna be a good scrappy. I've made this as one of my quilts I did during 2020. I did the picnic size, which was a 53-inch square quilt. But I think this could be a fun one to do as a scrappy one as well. So that's kind of two things that are gonna kind of kickstart my scrappiness and help me figure out what scrappy quilts really mean to me and how to go from there. And now I want to show you, because I realized I told you about this block of the month that I was going to be working on from last year for the shop, and I don't think I ever showed it on here. I know I did my Art East Quilt Company one, which was the mini block one, which will make its resurgence very soon once I get through this one. So this one, we use the Quilt Builder card deck. And what that is this a cool little box of cards. They're like coaster size. And so each card has a quilt block on there, and then it has 5 different sizes of what you can do for these quilt blocks. So this box has 40, no, how many blocks are in here? Yeah, 40 blocks. So there's 40 blocks in here, and each card is a different block. So with this block of the month, each month, obviously I did grunge, so here's my December one. So each month there were 2 different blocks you could pick from, depending on what you wanted to do. And so you can pick between those 2 blocks and make your sampler quilt. So my plan was to do 2 different blocks for each month, one from the kit and then one from my stash, because you've seen my grunge stash, I'm pretty sure. And so what I did is I picked one block to do the kit. So this one is February's, this one was January's. I don't remember their names at all. If I look through my box, I would know. But so I did those 2, and then I decided with my stash, I was gonna do a grayscale version of whatever block I didn't pick to do the kit fabric from. So in the end, I would have 12 grayscale blocks, and then I would have 12 colorful blocks, resulting in 2 quilts, which would then, my plan was to do the grayscale one. I would pick a bright color to do the sashing, and then the colorful one, I would do a gray sashing, or yeah, probably gray. Gray paper grunge is the one that my other coworker Leslie and I were talking about doing. And so I think that's gonna be a nice neutral for that, but I have to finish my blocks first. So I have all my blocks for March onward, because that was the last block I got before everything started falling apart last year. And then the wedding happened and I just kept getting my blocks and didn't get my free one because I didn't finish them, but that's a different story. So that's gonna be my first thing that I'm gonna start working on. So I'm gonna start getting those cut out once I start taming this a little bit, making some piles. And then also some things that I have to work with, which feel like are kind of scraps, is I made a couple quilts last year for, there's a company that helped put the flooring in my parents' house after everything happened in April. And so when I made the blocks, it left me with all these like little bits. So I think there's gotta be some way that I can use these pieces and turn them into some kind of just like a scrappy little baby quilt, and then not have like all these weird chunks sitting around. So that's kind of a scrappy plan that I'm gonna go from there. Obviously this is gonna be a more controlled scrappy because these are all from the same jelly roll. But then I have, like, here is my Art East sampler that I'm gonna be working on soon, just to kind of get the ball rolling. So let's see if I can get any sewing done in this video. So one thing I'll show you is I have these 2 giant bags of scrap batting, which look like this. And these are 2 giant bags I got from bridal shows that I could probably fit a small child in. And these are all my batting scraps. of different quilts that I've made, leftovers from different quilts I've quilted for people. And so I just have all these batting scraps in addition to those battings that I got from my great aunt, to those more of the polyester batting. So my coworker gave me some of this batting seam tape. So I am getting ready for my bold blocks that you're gonna see on Friday, but I'm gonna give this a go with some of my 100% cotton batting. This is the Quilter's Dream Request. And so I'm gonna see how this works. And if this works really well on this, I may go ahead and switch to it instead of zigzagging. So, though it does mean that it's a product I'd have to keep buying, but if it works, it works. So let's see what it says. So as with all fusibles, please test the batting seam tape and your batting before starting your project. Well, there's no way to test it better than just going for it, right? So, garbage can. I brought in my old ironing board because I don't want to ruin adhesive on my wool mat in case I do this totally wrong. So as you can see, I've got my backing here for my bold blocks. And then I'm gonna line these up. Let's see what it says. My iron is behind me. So, use a steam iron hand. 1, join pieces of batting or fabric. Line up edges closely together. 2, apply batting seam tape over the seam with the fusible, which is the rough side down. Press firmly for 10 seconds, then lift the iron. Do not slide, and press the next section. So I'm guessing that I need to, it's going to eventually be all one big piece of tape. So I wonder if I should, I don't know if I should cut this first or just go for it. Oh, it's wrapped up still. Okay. We are learning together. So, yeah, she just had this in her stash. So she was like, here, try this. And I was like, all right. I do know that we have some of this on the clearance table at work. So what better way? The first test is getting the plastic off the outside. Come on. Here, maybe. It's kind of like it feels like medical gauze. Rough side. I guess, so my first concern was that this was going to be like a weird thick thing that I feel on my batting, but when I put it together, it's going to feel obvious that it's there, but it's a very thin mesh. So let me cut this tape off and go from there. So, because I can't get that tape to peel off. Okay. So, I'm going to start with a small chunk just to give it a go. Can you see that there? No, I'm out of frame. Hold on a sec. Okay, here we go. Okay, so those are butt up against each other. That's there. Let me get my iron. So cool down. What does it say? The wool setting. Okay. So I'm gonna press, hold for 30 seconds, not 30 seconds, 10 seconds. So, so you can see I've got my beautiful Black & Decker iron from Walmart. Okay. Oh, well that's it. It's stuck to one side, but not so much the other. That's weird. So, okay, it's sticking back here. Let me try another piece. Okay. Feels like the rough side. I guess if on the end it's not sticking, that's fine because that's going to be trimmed off in the end. out a little bit. Wait, 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So iron shape there. 1, 2, 3, 4, oops, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, we'll go back over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, that end just does not want to stick there. Okay, it seems to be doing much better down here, so it's just that end for whatever reason. So there you have it. So it does seem that this seems to work once you get going. Maybe that's because that was the beginning of the roll. So far so good. Come back Friday and we'll see how this goes on the quilt. So I've been sorting my piles. I've got grunge going, more white on white. And then I started separating this out into colors. And then this is my Kona pile. And this is my Trixie pile. Are you a Scrap? No, you're just a cute kitten. Huh. So, I don't know if I'm going to get any sewing done, but at least I'll have organization done. So I'm still organizing and get everything situated, but I did get these 2 pillowcases sewn as kind of like a brain break during the week. If you couldn't tell and you watched last year, this is the one that was supposed to go with the frog marching band pillow or quilt, and it just didn't get done. And then this one, I can't remember what this one's for, but I bought that intentionally to be a pillowcase. So when I find chunks of scraps that are big enough to become 2 pillowcase pieces, that's what I'm going to do as well with some of my scraps, just to not feel like I'm cutting them down smaller, but still have pillowcases that may or may not match the quilts that they're going with. So it's a little decorative stitch that I did on the edge just to kind of fancy it up. So there you have it. We'll see you again soon.